Donald Trump in Pennsylvania this weekend talked about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis. Yep, that's a sentence that happened in real life in October of 2024. Let's get into it. Okay. So Trump is in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which is Arnold Palmer, the famous golfer's hometown, and he for a rally. And he starts off with this long, like 10 or 12-minute talk about Palmer. And I need coffee to get through this. And he, at the end, he says the following. This is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, "Oh my God, that's unbelievable." Now the crowd laughed and was like, "Oh," and Trump laughed, kind of chuckled. And then later he said, quote, "I had to tell you the shower part of it because it's true. What can I tell you? We want to be honest." So, Trump, this is not the first time Trump has talked about genitalia on the campaign trail. I know that will stun you. So if you remember back to the 2016 campaign, and yes, there actually is a broader point here, and I will get to it. But if you remember back to the 2016 campaign, so during the 2016 campaign in the primary, there was like a 4-day period where Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, decided, I'm going to give Trump a taste of his own medicine, effectively. I'm going to go as low as Trump goes. So here's how it went. So Rubio, this is in like March of 2016. Rubio said a bunch of things, but this was one. He said to a crowd in Salem, Virginia, he said, "You know what they say about men with small hands?" And then the audience laughed and he said, "You can't trust them." And then right after that, there was a debate with all the candidates. And Trump, of course, could not leave off referencing the hands comment. He said, "Rubio referred to my hands. If they are small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there is no problem. I guarantee." My God. Now, later that month, Trump, so in March of 2016, Trump met with the Washington Post editorial board, and they asked him, like, "Do you regret talking about your genitalia on a national debate?" And he said, quote, "I had no choice." He then added, "My hands are normal hands." He then added, quote, "I was online shaking hands with supporters, and one of the supporters said, 'Mr. Trump, you have strong hands. You have good-sized hands.' And then another one would say, 'Oh, you have great hands, Mr. Trump. I had no idea.' I said, 'What do you mean?' He said, 'I thought you were like deformed. I thought you had small hands.'" I thought you were like deformed. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So all of this apparently traces back to Graydon Carter, who went on famously to become the editor of Vanity Fair. But in the 80s, he wrote for Spy magazine, and he referred to Trump as a short-fingered vulgarian. Short-fingered vulgarian. Okay. But Trump didn't like this. And Carter said in recent years that Trump occasionally sends him just pictures of his hands circled, saying, you know, like, "These are pretty normal sized hands, maybe even big." Okay, why does this matter? So it matters because I've talked about this before, and there is actually a serious point here. So Donald Trump's definition of masculinity is very old-timey. Let's call it that. That's like the nicest thing I can say about it. He has a sense that sort of he wants to go back to when men were men, you know, and the women stayed at home and the men went out and worked and they had blue-collar jobs, even though he's never had a blue-collar job. But, you know, they went out and they worked and they loved football and they drank beer on the weekends and life was normal. You know, that's his world. That's what he views, right? That's sort of he has this, what I would say is a little bit deformed definition of masculinity, that it's just all about being tough and aggressive and the strongest, survival of the fittest, and the strongest survive. And, you know, there's very much that contained in all of what he says and does, right? Whether it's urging police to treat protesters as rallies more roughly, to saying the police need to be able to get tougher. He recounts gangs, MS-13, and how tough they are and how the police and ICE have to be even tougher. He always tells stories about how these big, strong guys come up to him crying and say, "Mr. Trump, you saved my life," or something, right? It's all big and strong and tough. And yes, that ties into his focus on genitalia. The proof that Arnold Palmer was a real man in Trump's mind is because he had a big penis, apparently. I didn't know that. I knew Milton Berle, but I didn't know that. And yes, Milton Berle is the most old-timey reference of all time. I'm surprised Trump didn't make that reference. So that's being a man to Trump. And that's why, by the way, the finger thing bothers him so much, the hand size thing. Because the hand size thing is code, and Rubio was using it as code for penis size. Let's be honest. Rubio, that's all he was doing, right? And maybe Graydon Carter was too, calling him a short-fingered vulgarian. But that's why Trump is so obsessed with it. That's why Trump can't that's why he has to talk about, these are good, strong, big hands even. Many people came up to me and said, my hands are big, because it means genitalia size, and genitalia size means manhood, literally, for Donald Trump. If you have a big penis, you're a big man, I guess. I mean, I can't believe we're talking about this, but that's just the reality of sort of who he is. Like, that's how he sees the world. And this is just sort of the Arnold Palmer thing that he said it. I'm a little surprised by, but of course he thinks it because that's how he thinks about these things. The world is black and white. There's men and there's women. And then there's, and if you're not a manly man, what are you even doing? You know, I mean, there's so much of his sort of attack on like effeminate men and men who cry and men who go see psychologists, by the way, men who go see psychologists, that it's sort of inherent in his appeal is kind of the big and tough thing. I saw over the weekend, he was at the Steelers game. The Steelers played on Sunday Night Football, and he posted, I think on True Social, this meme of him, like his head cropped onto like a big muscular football player's body. You've seen that with like the Rocky in Rambo body with Donald Trump's head. You've seen it with Superman, Donald Trump's head. This is all the same kind of stuff. It's this big, burly masculinity, what it means to be a man. And that's what he's focused on. And that's why he cares about the size of Arnold Palmer's junk and about his own junk size. So yeah, it's amazing that we're talking about this, but here we are. Okay. 4 things. We are almost to the election, people. I'm going way beyond the election, obviously. I'm going to keep doing this. But 4 things that I ask you to do anytime you watch a video. I ask you to subscribe to this channel. It's easy and free. I ask you to like this video. It's easy and free. Just give it the thumbs up. I ask you to comment on this video. It's pretty easy and it's free. And I ask you to tell 10 friends about this channel, which is free, maybe not entirely easy, but look, I'm only asking you to do the one thing that's even marginally hard. So you can do it. Come on, people. We can do hard things in this world. All right, that's all I got for today. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and be well.